Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hello, one. Hello, all. Ray Flowers here, Fantasy Sport Daily, and obviously FantasyGuru.com. Hope you're doing well today. What's going on, folks, as I type away here? Intrepid reporter Ray Flowers. What's going on? Got a good day, good night, good morning. Looking forward to a big day. Looking forward to training camp over at FantasyGuru.com. We'll talk about that in a second. But I am your host, Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. At the Ray Flowers. Check it out. Wherever social media is at the Ray Flowers, probably me. Took a while to get that. I tried to get Ray Flowers on Twitter X forever. Someone got Ray Flowers on Twitter, and they posted like 3 times in like 5 years, and I kept sending notes and saying, hey, I was offering to buy it. Never happened. So eventually I went to at the Ray Flowers. So I have that now all on social medias all over the place. So check that out. I'm Ray Flowers. Did you know that? Yeah, I'm FantasyGuru.com. I'm here with you Monday through Friday. This week, I'll probably be with you Monday through Friday each of the next 2 weeks. Justin Fenceman away for the birth of his second child. Everyone, welcome to the world, little Fensterman, and congrats to his entire family. So I'll probably be with you the next 2 weeks, 5 days a week. Justin will probably be back starting in September. This show is Fantasy Sports Daily, Monday through Friday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We go about an hour, some days a little less, some days a little more, about an hour each day. Jeff Mann's show is after us. About an hour after this show ends, Jeff Mann's show starts over on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's Elite Sports. I'm with Jeff every Wednesday, so obviously means I was on the show with him yesterday. We got a lot going on this week. Got this show, we got that show, we got football hot and heavy. We're still covering baseball over at FantasyGuru.com. And for those of you that don't know, it's training camp. It's a day away. It's tomorrow. If you can't make it tomorrow, that's okay, because it'll be cataloged, just like this show is cataloged. By the way, you can find this show going to FantasyGuru.com, clicking the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. You can type in Fantasy Sports Daily wherever you check out your podcast. Type in Fantasy Sports Daily. You should find us there. 3 places to watch live or on demand. Excuse me. In those 3 places, let me take a sip of water. Geez, that came out of nowhere. 3 places where you can also leave comments and questions throughout the show. YouTube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, and on Twitter X @FantasyGuruSite. All 3 of those places. Watch live, watch on demand, leave comments and questions while we're doing it. But yeah, you want to get involved with us over at FantasyGuru.com, sign up for the training camp. This is an additional package. If you've got the basic entry-level package at FantasyGuru.com, you don't have access to this. Okay, so just want everyone to know that. It's not a guarantee, but if you want to get involved, no problem at all. If you have let me make sure I got this right. If you're a basic member, you'll need to buy a ticket, upgrade your membership to get access. If you're all-in seasonal and higher, you get this for free. So all-in seasonal and higher for fantasy football, you get this coverage for free. If you have the basic package, you'll need to get a ticket for this. Bottom line is that you can see there on the screen, it's the 4th year in a row we've done this. We'll have 12 hours of live discussion with all of you, covering a variety of topics. That you can see there, the 2 hosts of this show, Justin Fensterman, he'll be on 2 to 3 doing an hour-long discussion about auctions. I'll be on from 3 to 4. These times are Eastern. I'll be on 3 to 4 talking about building a winner. I kind of have a catch-all show, so we'll talk a little bit about this, a little bit about that. Roster construction, bench construction, how to put a team together, how to work trades in season, all those kind of things. We'll talk about that for my hour-long talk. Again, that's 3 to 4 Eastern. But the entire staff is going. Everyone gets about an hour to talk. We'll do 12 hours in total. Jeff Mans and Ted Schuster at the end. We'll take questions, and that's basically, I think they're just doing a roundtable. But all the shows, including mine, will be taking questions live like we do on this show too. So you can also get signed up there with the added benefit of, as you see there, a ticket to the 4th annual Elite Mafia Fantasy Football Championship. You get to take us on. So if you've always wanted to and never have, or if you have in the past and want to do it again, if you want to take on the experts, quote unquote, at FantasyGuru.com, sign up for the training camp package. You can, you can even, I would recommend watching this show and then watching the earlier ones tomorrow on demand. But hey, I get it if you want to watch those live on the show tomorrow. But the bottom line is this: Get signed up for the training camp package. You get 12 hours of a discussion. You can ask questions, comments, videos, all that kind of stuff, presentations, PowerPoints, all that kind of stuff. Great stuff. And the 4th annual Fantasy Football Elite Mafia Championship. You get a ticket to take on the experts at fantasyguru.com. Building a winner by stealing others' handcuffs and not securing your own. John, we don't do that. Now, sometimes people build their teams wrong. We were talking about this yesterday on the Elite Sports Show. We'll talk about stuff like this. That'll come up tomorrow during the discussions at fantasyguru.com. On the show today, baseball, Braves talk. A lot of Braves talk to start things off. Dylan Cruz is almost back in our lives. Owen Cassie's called up by the Cubs. What's going on there? Doesn't really make a lot of sense. Curtis Mead, Ramon, Laureano. On the pitching side of things, Drew Rasmussen. No pitch counts anymore. Drew Rasmussen. Hunter Greene returned and was fantastic. Shohei Ohtani update, not a great one. Troy Melton and Josh Hader, also not a good one there. In about 25 minutes, we'll visit with Tyler Beucher. He wrote an article about ADP and some gaps that he's noticed. So how to take advantage of ADP will be a question we'll ask Tyler. And then we'll talk about a bunch of situations in the backfield of the Bills, the Texans, what's going on with Omarion, Hampton, Justin Jefferson. We'll do a bunch of either-ors, one per position, stuff like Caleb Williams or Bo Nix. We'll talk to Tyler Beucher here in a few minutes. Okay, so let's make that a little bit smaller. Let's make me a little bit bigger because who doesn't need more Ray Flowers in their lives? Ronald Acuna should be ready to return from that calf strain within the next couple of days. We talked about this yesterday, just a furtherance today. All signs are a go that Acuna will be activated toward the end of this week, maybe tomorrow. But he's obviously progressing. If you've got him in an ability to change your lineup on a daily basis, you can obviously activate him as soon as he is active. It's like, let's say he's activated tomorrow. It's likely he'll sit out one of the 3 games. Like teams usually do this where they activate a guy and then they, bench him once or twice here right at the start to make sure he's okay. But Ronald Acuna's about ready to get back in our lives. The negative news for the Braves is that Austin Riley isn't ready to be back in our lives. We've talked about this. He's got the abdominal strain. It's something he's dealt with multiple times. He hasn't been able to ramp up his workouts as of yet. And though he's eligible to come off the injured list actually today, no chance that's going to happen. It's probably at least another week based upon what we know right now. Nacho, great name. Alvarez has been filling in. He'll probably continue to do so here in the short order. I'm hopeful that a week from now, Riley is back. I still, like I said, I'm not really sure whether that's reasonable or not. Especially with the way the season has gone with the Braves, especially because this is kind of a repeat injury, all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. We'll continue to follow this, but Riley's not going to be out there. He shouldn't be someone that you're expecting to start next week, like in a head-to-head setup or anything like that. But we'll continue to monitor that. Hopefully we'll get some good news here. Obviously, again, as I noted, much better news with Ronald Acuna. Michael Harris hit a grand slam, scored a couple of runs yesterday, went 2 for 5. And, Michael Harris is going to be remembered by everyone that left 2 weeks ago because their baseball team wasn't any good or because it started a fantasy football season for them. He's going to be remembered as a miserable failure this year. Maybe he'll still end up being a failure this year. And again, for me personally, he's going to be a failure barring him continuing what he's done the last couple of weeks, the next 6 weeks. I say that because I don't know how many people realize this, but over the last 25 games, over the last month, Michael Harris is batting .366 with a nearly 1,100 OPS. He's got 15 RBIs, 17 runs scored, and 7 bombs in 25 games. Now, he's only stolen 1 base. Okay. Looks like he's going to miss on that 2020 thing again. He's got 13 and 13 right now. But the bottom line is the bat is on fire. It's on fire. And again, we can move on beyond from draft day on March. It's no longer where we're at, right? It doesn't matter anymore, right? Michael Harris right now is killing it. He is killing it. The last week, 3 home runs, 8 RBIs, 6 runs scored in 7 games. So he's gotten even better the last week, even though, as I noted, the last month he's been spectacular. We talk about this a lot. Eventually, these guys kind of come through. We saw the same things happen with Bryan Reynolds. Brian Reynolds, who we talked about, it was earlier this week, right? We talked about Bryan Reynolds and how, this season's going to go down as a disappointment. He's also gone 11 for his last 27. In the last month in time, Bryan Reynolds has got 15 RBIs, batting .330 with a 900 OPS. So guys like Reynolds, guys like Harris, you can look at their seasonal numbers and be disappointed, which is completely fair. But we have to deal with where they're at right now. And when we talk about guys warming Bernabel, like everyone went out and went nuts for this guy, an unproven rookie merely because he had a spectacular first week and he plays for Colorado. Okay, but why not take a chance on the Michael Harris's, Bryan Reynolds of the world, the guys that have a track record, that we know who they are, who had slow starts to the season. So just a shout out to Harris. I doubt Harris is on the waiver wire even in a 10-team league because people often do the let's search the last 10 games, 2 weeks kind of thing, and they'll see these numbers for Michael Harris. But if you got Michael Harris on your team and you're not paying attention, he's on your bench or, Michael Harris is killing it right now. Dylan Cruz is scheduled to return from his oblique injury this weekend. Okay. Well, this is really important for Cruz. We've talked about it. We talked about him 10 days ago, something like that on the show. I think we talked about it after I returned from my vacation. The fact is that Dylan Cruz has got to play every day and he's got to hit. He's stolen bases at a much better rate than anyone anticipated. That part of his game is nice. We knew he could steal a base, but the rate has been impressive. The fact is, though, that his bat has been very average to poor. And we've discussed the varying viewpoints on Dylan Cruz with the scouting community and how a lot of people thought he was overdrafted to begin with by the Nationals. But the bottom line is the Nationals anticipate him being part of this team for a decade, right? It's Abrams, it's Wood, it's Cruz. That's kind of the plan. We'll see if it works itself out. So Cruz should be back this weekend. He should play every day moving down the stretch. He absolutely could be somebody on the waiver wire, depending upon how your league setup works and IL spots and all that. Make a move on Cruz now. The bat might be average. I mean, put it this way. If he develops and he's Michael Harris, is that a bad thing? Maybe it's not what we really expected, but if he's that guy, is that a bad thing? And the answer is no. Could he be a kind of guy that Michael Harris has been this season the rest of the way? Yeah, Dylan Cruz could do that. I think his bat could pick things up here down the stretch. We'll see. He's got to stay healthy and he's got to hit. He's not like one of these other guys that, like we talk about Jordan Walker, we talk about some of these other young guys. Jordan Walker's like playing for his life right now, right? Dylan Cruz is going to be in the lineup next year on day one, right? That's not, but is he going to be batting 8th or 9th? He's going to bat 1st or 2nd. So we'll monitor him down the stretch. He's about ready to be activated by the Nationals. Owen Cassie's been called up by the Cubs. Owen Cassie has got one of the better power strokes in all of baseball amongst minor leaguers now, going to be a big leaguer. He got called up. We got the news report last night. He was called up. Phil Backert from SiriusXM and Fantasy Guru texted me. He's like, what the hell's going on? What are these guys doing? We talked about this on the show yesterday. If you waited, August 15th? Yeah, if you waited August 15th, which is tomorrow. August 15th is that date where if you call a rookie up, they will retain their rookie status for next season. So guys like Samuel Basallo, Bubba Chandler, these guys could get called up because they'll still be rookies next year. And we talked about the advantages teams get if those rookies do well. They get extra draft picks. So why would the Cubs call them up 2 days early? And we were discussing things. I was like, well, Amaya, who was on the 60-day injured list, came off the injured list, then is going back on the injured list. He hurt his ankle last night. We kind of decided, well, maybe they just want to pull him up for a couple of weeks till Amaya is back. I don't know. I mean, they could call up Cassie, which they're doing, use him now for a couple of weeks and then demote him back down, and he'd still be a rookie next year because he wouldn't, you got to be on the roster from now through the end of the season. So there's still ways for the Cubs to maintain rookie status with Cassie. But the bottom line is you look at his numbers and they're pretty good. Hitting 290, got a 390 on base percentage, got a 575 slugging percentage. He's got 22 home runs, and again, huge power. Does have some swing and miss in his game. He's not a guy who's going to steal a bunch of bases from a fantasy perspective. He is someone to be excited about in a dynasty keeper league scenario. But where does he play right now? I saw a report that, well, maybe Ian Happ is out of the lineup. They're not going to take Ian Happ out of the lineup. There is no spot for Cassie to play. So as much as there's future here, as much as there's prospect status, if you're in a keeper league and you can add a guy off the waiver wire and you can keep him in the 30th round because your league has the waiver wire thing set up wrong for the future, go add Owen Cassie for next year. That's totally fine to do. For those of you in redraft leagues, I just don't know how long he's going to stay up, and I certainly can't envision a scenario where he's in the lineup every day. So a bright future, but right now it doesn't look like it's going to happen for Cassie. The exact opposite with Ramon Laureano. He's got really no future, but right now, my God, what happened to Ramon Laureano this year, right? He went 3 for 4 yesterday, had a 2-run home run. He's played 12 games now for the Padres. He's hitting .333 with the 400 on base percentage and a .600 slugging percentage. I mean, Ramon Laureano has been one of the out-of-nowhere stars of this season, and I use that term stars truthfully. He has 304 at-bats, so barely 300 at-bats. He has 17 home runs, 56 RBIs, 54 runs scored. He's hitting .296. He's got a .900 OPS. Like, that's a 30, 90, 90, 300 pace damn near for Ramon Laureano. He's been fantastic. And he's continued to do so now that he's with the Padres. And I mean, I got to tell you that this last 27 games, 7 home runs, 22 RBIs, 20 runs scored. You would ask me 3 weeks ago, is this sustainable? I would have said no. 2 weeks ago, I would have said no. Last week, I would have said no. Now I'm still saying no, but sometimes things like this happen. He's out of his mind right now. Doesn't run like he used to, does have 5 steals. But, I mean, look, any port in a storm, right? Like, Ramon Laureano has had a special season. He's been even better the last month. He's been terrific since joining his new team. Maybe my doubts need to be pushed aside for 2025. They'll come back next year. But boy, has he been special in 2025. Speaking of youngsters, going young to old, now back to the young, Curtis Mead was traded to, or ended up on the White Sox. Flamed out with the Rays, never could establish himself, that kind of thing. There's a report from the Chicago Sun-Times that even though Miguel Vargas is coming off the injured list, Mead is still going to be playing every day for the White Sox. And while this is really important, I think, in AL leagues, there might even be something to see here in mixed leagues. And I don't, Mead, he's a career 300 hitter in the minors, like an 880 OPS. Like he's got a really nice offensive game. He has not at any point in his big league career found it. So let's not get ahead of ourselves and say, oh, Mead's the guy to own down the stretch. Let's go blow apart. No. He's 24. He's played 120 games at the big league level, and he's got a 630 OPS. Is he a better hitter than the hitting has shown? I think the answer to that is absolutely yes. Okay. He should play every day for the White Sox. There is absolutely that report. I have to agree with that report. Why on earth would he not play every day? Your leagues are all different, but 9 games at third, 17 at second base, 25 at first base. Might be tri-position eligible, right? We're always looking for that. Mead is somebody to at least put on the watch list. None of the numbers stand out and say he's someone that should be starting down the stretch. The pedigree says certainly could be. So he's a watch list guy. Depends on your desperation, your need, the flex position, all that kind of stuff. But, he was a top 40 prospect in baseball last year, top 50 prospect in all of baseball last year. So, he's going to be playing every day for the White Sox. And we'll see, like Vargas trying to establish himself, we'll see if Mead's able to do the same thing with the White Sox. Joey Ortiz, as we talk about some other names of guys that, we're talking about some guys that are kind of hot and kind of trying to feel them out here as we hit down the stretch in Major League Baseball. Joey Ortiz went 2 for 3, had a walk, 3 runs scored, had a couple RBIs yesterday against the Pirates. And the Pirates, against the Pirates, for the Brewers. The Brewers can't lose. This is getting wild. The Brewers can't lose, and Jackson Chourio is not even, this is crazy. 12 games in a row. The last 12 games, Joey Ortiz has gone Ramon Laureano and then some. Joey Ortiz, the last 12 games, is hitting .390 with a .440 on base percentage and a .540 slugging percentage. In 12 games, his seasonal OPS has gone up 50 points, which is damn near impossible. Joey Ortiz is cracker good, if that's even a phrase, which it's not, right now. And he is somebody who's only qualified. He's only played shortstop this year. Again, some of these places, maybe he picked up second base. Maybe he probably picked up third base last year in your setup, right? So he probably qualifies at third base and shortstop, which is really nice. His overall numbers are not sexy at all. In fact, his overall numbers are poor. Last season, there was some passable play here. This year, the numbers are bad. So I think it's very possible that Joey Ortiz is on the waiver wire. He's a dual position guy. He has the ability to, be a double-double guy. He did that last year, 11-11, home runs and steals. He's had 11 steals again this year. Not sexy or exciting there. In theory, he can take a walk. Now, he hasn't walked at all this year. His walk rate has plummeted, which is a big-time concern, down to 6%. So his on-base percentage is tanked as a result. But he's in a special groove right now. He's hitting extremely well right now. He is batting 9th, so he will lose those plate appearances, especially at home games. But with the way he's producing, with the way the team is playing, Joey Ortiz is definitely worth an addition off the waiver wire if you're looking for some infield help right now. Sal Frelick, his teammate, 2 for 3, double, 2 RBIs, couple of walks, 4 runs scored on Wednesday. That's 31 runs scored for Sal Frelick in the 40 games he's batted leadoff, right? That's 125 run pace. Sal Frelick is somebody that I've liked for a long time. You and I have talked about him for a long time. We've talked about him this season, including And I basically said, good player. He's a great guy to have around. He's one of those guys that at the end of the year, you look at the player rater for outfielders and you're like, this guy's outfielder 39? Like it's because, nothing he's doing is outstanding. But he's a home run and 2 steals away from going 10-20. I always hoped he'd be a 10-30 guy. Nice to see him finally getting there, right? He's hitting 296. Is he a 296 hitter? He's 275 hitter. So he could hit 296 the rest of the way. So we have a guy basically going 10-25, hitting 300 with 80 runs scored. Like, he's more of a compiler that can steal a base. Has very little power, very little oomph. But much like his teammate is just getting it done. His last 6 games, he's got 6 RBIs, 8 runs scored. His last 8 games, 6 RBIs, 9 runs scored. His last 12 games, scored 11 runs. Like, he's scoring all the time. So Frelick, good season and really nice groove at the moment. Speaking of some pitching here, let's talk about a Brewer pitcher. And these next 2 guys to talk about our workload guys. Brandon Woodruff gets pulled from his start on Wednesday. And it's like, oh man, he threw 65 pitches, 4 innings, no runs allowed against the Pirates. He gets pulled. What the hell's going on? Pat Murphy, the manager of the team, said that was the plan. Now, I didn't see a single report, and this is the frustrating part with this. I did not see a single report, and if you did prior to the game yesterday, I'd love to see it. Someone could send me a link, at the Ray Flowers, hit me up in Discord. I didn't see a single report suggesting that he was going to have a short outing. This is what teams do, especially in the case of Woodruff, who's missed all these times with injuries and surgeries and all that. I totally get it. But Woodruff, who has been fantastic since his return, who was stupendous yesterday, just gets pulled after 4 innings because he hit a 65 pitch limit. Teams are under no obligation to tell us. But that sucks. Just sucks. So, I guess next time out, he's up to 90 pitches again. But this scenario obviously hits you right in the face. And this is going to happen down the stretch. It's going to happen with guys like Woodruff coming back from injury. It's going to happen with young players approaching workload limits. It's going to happen maybe with veterans approaching workload limits. We'll talk about Drew Rasmussen in a second. So this is another impediment to fantasy success that we didn't have 20 years ago. You pitched or you didn't pitch. Like, it was one or the other. Woodruff's going out there and throwing 90 pitches or he's not pitching, right? That's just how it's different now. In the Roto League, it sucks. Okay. In a head-to-head, this is tough. If you start Woodruff expecting him to have a great outing against the Pirates, and you have a league where it's 10 points for a victory and, all these, 7 points for a quality start and all these kind of things. You lost 17 points yesterday with Woodruff just because they decided to pull him from the game. So anyway, Woodruff is fine, which is the good takeaway. It was disappointing what we saw yesterday. Drew Rasmussen, a veteran on a workload count because he, like Woodruff, has dealt with a bunch of injuries and issues physically the last couple of years. He allowed 1 run yesterday to the Athletics. Set to face the Cardinals next week. The 1 run he allowed, by the way, was in 6 innings. So Drew Rasmussen, who was fantastic, then all of a sudden there was the workload stuff, right? Now it's back to being a banger. His last 3 outings, he's allowed 2 runs, 1 earned in 3 outings. And let's see. If you look at this, in the Rays, I've always done this with the Rays. You got to give them credit. Okay, they know exactly what they're doing. They really do. He had 3 innings in an outing, 2 innings in an outing, 2 innings in an outing, 4 innings in an outing. We all got nervous. The last 4 times since then, he's allowed 4 runs. Now, we have heard all along from them that they have a 150 inning pitch limit for Drew Rasmussen. We know this has come up repeatedly. Is it 146 innings and they shut him down? Is it 159 innings and they shut him down? But the 150 is the number they have said all along is our max. Like, that's where we're at. Now, how does this work if the Rays still believe they're going to make the playoffs? Now, they're below 500 now. They're 11 games out of they're not going to make the playoffs. If they're admitting they're not going to make the playoffs, it's probably a pretty firm mark, the 150, right? So that leaves them 33 innings, making 5 innings a start, 6 starts, maybe 7. So we'll see. But the good news is he's back to being a banger. Hopefully we'll get news if they're randomly going to say he's limited to 60 pitches in the outing. Hopefully we don't have a scenario like we just had with Brandon Woodruff. Don't know if that's going to be the case, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. Hunter Greene, who I told people not to pitch yesterday. I was wrong. Right to do it, right to say it, result totally wrong. He was fantastic. He went out there, allowed only 3 hits, 6 shutout innings against the Pirates through 85 pitches. Like, wow. That was terrific against a good opponent coming back off a long injury layoff. That was a terrific, fantastic, beautiful outing from Hunter Greene. Next time out against the Angels, everyone's starting him. We all know that. Greene has been really good this year. The problem is he had 65 innings? I mean, that, and that's the thing we were talking about earlier in the year. I think on the show, I said, all Hunter Greene has to do now is stay healthy to finally live up to expectations. Then he got hurt like his next start. Yeah, he's at 65 innings. I mean, how many innings he threw in the minors? 13 innings in the minors. So he's at just under 80 innings. 2.5 ERA, 0.93 whip, 30% strikeout rate, 31% strikeout rate. He's been fantastic. Fire him up next time out. We'll hope he can stay healthy here down the stretch. Excuse me. Durability has just not been his friend at this point. Next up, Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani for the first time this year went more than 4 innings. He went 4 1/3 innings yesterday. Gave up 4 runs, but I think he had like 7 strikeouts. Pitched pretty well. Now, the problem is, and I can't say this is definitive, but when the manager comes out and says, look, our plan is X, you have to listen to that. Dave Roberts, the manager of the Dodgers, basically said the plan with Ohtani the rest of the way is to never let him throw more than 5 innings. Ohtani, the pitcher, has been solid, but he hasn't thrown 5 innings yet in an effort. So he has not one single time qualified for a victory as a starting pitcher, right? Now, openers and that kind of thing, okay, cool. I wish the Dodgers would use an opener in front of Ohtani. It doesn't sound like that's the plan. They continue to bat him leadoff, so, there's that. But the bottom line is Dave Roberts basically said that he's not going to work for more than 5 innings in any start. So it's going to be tough to pick up victories is the moral of the story with Shohei Ohtani. The Dodgers have been really, really careful. I would say overly careful with most of their starting pitchers, including Ohtani this year. And for those people that are, looking at these kind of things, Dodgers and Padres are, I mean, Dodgers obviously just want to make the playoffs, but the Padres have gone on a furious run here the last quarter of the season, and the Dodgers are kind of floundering. Bottom line is, though, Ohtani's not going to go deep into games, so picking up victory is going to be tough for him unless they put an opener in front of him, which they likely won't because he's going to continue to hit leadoff for them offensively. Troy Melton, who is not part of the Tigers starting rotation, was really good yesterday against the White Sox. Now, White Sox, okay, all that kind of stuff. He threw 56 pitches in his 5 innings of work, allowed 1 hit at 6 strikeouts. Like, that was really good. And the Tigers obviously are very good. They could sneak Melton in as a piggyback starter reliever. They could give him an odd start here and there. We'll see, but they're just, you look at the numbers, you're like, wow, 5 shutout innings. Yeah, he's just not likely to be a starter long term. They just don't have a spot. Maybe they change things up. The Tigers are willing to mix and match as well, so continue to monitor that. Great effort for Melton, but just not a spot for him in the rotation to get excited about. Josh Hader. We talked about this news yesterday I think it was yesterday, right? Days all run together for me. But he's got the shoulder issue. He's on the injured list. Brian Abreu did go out and get his first save of the season last night, as we discussed here on the show. Second opinion for Josh Hader. We know, according to his manager, it's going to be longer than 15 days. They've already said that. Here it's going to be longer than 15 days immediately. And when you hear second opinion, you start getting nervous, right? This could be nothing. He could be back in 20 days. This could be nothing. He could be back in 18 days. This could be something he's out for 2 months. This could be something where his season is over. This could be something, well, maybe he could pitch in the World Series if they make it. There's a ton of options here. But where we're at right now is not good if you're a Josh Hader owner. And, this is the nature of the reliever. It's why we've talked so long on this show about the fact that I prefer Souls leagues to Saves leagues. I have Brian Abreu already. Whether he's closing or setting up, it doesn't matter. He's just racking up these good numbers. Hader, who is the only reliever in baseball to have 30 saves each of the last 4 seasons, if I'm not mistaken, has 28 right now. So is he going to get to that 30 mark? We can all hope. But going for that second opinion, being out longer than 15 days, these are 2 negative signs for Josh Hader. So the fingers are crossed there. Again, Brian Abreu is the pivot, as we discussed before. Hader was even placed on the injured list on this show. That morning before that, we just knew his shoulder was sore. We said on the show, go get Abreu. He's the guy right now. I think Abreu leads all relievers in strikeouts this year, if I'm not mistaken, too. But the news with Hader is we're in a touch and go scenario. Keep a good thought. Hopefully we get that situation clarified here in the next couple of days, but not a good spot to be in if you're a Josh Hader owner right now. Looking pretty rough. Every Thursday, we talk baseball for half the show, and we talk football for half the show. And on those Thursdays, when we talk football, we get to talk to one of the best minds in all of fantasy football. Our friend and your friend, Tyler Beucher. You can find him over at fantasyguru.com in the Discord room answering questions. You can often find him on the Minor Marcel podcast talking about football with Armando. You can find that show and this show. If you go to fantasyguru.com, you click that Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. You can find his draft book, his auction draft book. That's available over at fantasyguru.com. You can find all his best ball information at fantasyguru.com. You can find a lot of Tyler Beucher and analysis. If you like analysis, he is your man over at fantasyguru.com. So let's bring him into the show today. Tyler Beucher, fantasyguru.com. How you doing, Tyler?
Okay, we're not frozen. Doing good, Ray. I'm like, oh, it was the worst timing for that. Doing good here, man. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, that happens, right? It's just like everything's working fine and the lights go on and it's like, but no, you're good. You're good. How are things on your end?
Excellent. Ready for the football season to begin. We've got training camp coming up this Friday. Very, very excited for that. We're all going to do about an hour presentation on various subjects. I will be covering best ball, and after doing 3 years of it, I'm going to shake this one up a little bit.
Nice.
Got some, doing a little, what's it called? Mr. Burns little, from The Simpsons, little sneaky little moves over here. I'm excited about it. We're going to talk about some tournament strategies and how to win this drafters competition, which has a lot of overlay once again this year, shaping up to be a contest that does not fill, which makes it very, very easy for you guys to cash. And it has a $500,000 prize up top. So I'm very, very excited to dive into some of the nooks and crannies on how to win that one.
Yeah, for those people, part of our draft guide, which again is a full season product at fantasyguru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get signed up now. Get coverage all year long. Part of that is inside of that is a best ball guide by Tyler. Articles on how and how not, what to do, what not to do, rankings, all of that. So that's there in the written form. He's going to be giving the presentation tomorrow. I'm up at 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, Tyler. What is your 1 hour tomorrow? What's your time slot?
I believe it's 11 a.m. Okay, yes, it's 11 a.m. 11 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little bit earlier. So Tyler will go into great detail, as he just noted there, about the best ball. And it's not too late. A lot of people, I think, go, oh, best balls for June, seasonals for August. Overlay, that folks, that means that the contest is not going to fill. That means your odds of winning go up. So there's still plenty of time to get involved, right, Tyler?
Correct. I'm pulling it up right now to see exactly how far we are into it. I think we're probably around 50% filled. We're less than. We're at 60 of 140. So 70K would be the 50% mark. We're a little bit under 50% filled, and there's 3 weeks left? 3.5?
All right. It's time. Get signed up.
Get in there, guys. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to go through a bunch of scenarios that are kind of players, kind of either ors and stuff we did today. But before we get to that, I saw you tweet out this morning your most recent article, and you were talking about ADP. So there's, again, a full article on this over at fantasyguru.com. What's the big takeaway? I think you're going to tell me that some people use ADP from one site, but then player might be 100 here. He might be 100 in this ADP. He might be 85 in this ADP. He might be 71 in this ADP. You got to kind of tailor what you're doing to the right ADP, because there's a lot of variety there when you look at these players and their costs at different sites and in different setups, correct?
Correct. The genesis of this article came from our show doing this with you last year, actually. We were talking about this on one of the random shows in early August, and I'm like, let me write an article diving into this a bit more, uncovering all the different hidden things that you are not really privy to until you enter the draft room, which, again, many of these sites are in home leagues specifically. Many sites and many drafters kind of go towards the ADP. They just kind of naturally follow it. And It's called average for a reason. It's not necessarily something you need to stick by or draft close to, but it can give you a good gauge in terms of when to expect players to go off the board. So if you're trying to execute Jeff Mann's Manifesto, I think you should pull up the site that you are drafting on, look at where those players are going relative to where Jeff's ADP in that article is sourced, which is NFC, which, again, NFC generally has a bit more higher stakes, not as leisurely as some of these home leagues like Yahoo or ESPN or particularly CBS, which, man, I look at the ADP on CBS and I am just thinking this is so antiquated and it blows my mind every time I look at CBS ADP. But what I did in this article is basically pull out CBS, ESPN, NFL.com, and Yahoo's ADP and cross compare them to where they're going on Underdog. Well, Underdog is a best ball platform.
Right.
A lot of Underdogs contests are top heavy, so the strategy in those is a little bit different than start sit leagues where you need to take floor into account a little bit more. So I really wanted to cross compare where the players were going on these sites compared to best ball, which had basically been what we've all been looking at this whole summer. There's quite a few values, quite a few players that are overpriced, and it varies site to site. Some sites a player is a green target, others it's a red fade based on where they're priced relative to expectation and where you can get them in other sites. So if you're playing in multiple leagues, like I imagine many people are, most people probably playing like 2 to 3, maybe 2 to 4 leagues, but they're not always on the same platform. Some may be on ESPN, some may be on Yahoo. Check and see where your ADP is, cross compare that with your rankings as you're about to enter the drafts, go in with a plan, do some mocks, do some practice runs, because the board will break differently on every single website. And when you throw in scoring curveballs with super flex formats, tight end premium, point per first down, all kinds of things can change in terms of expectations on draft to draft and site to site. So it's an article that you can download all these ADP players as well so that you can look at it and manipulate the data to your own liking as well. But it's something that I think is really, really helpful in terms of prepping for upcoming fantasy drafts.
Yeah, and one player that you tweeted about, just to magnify the differences here, Jacoby Meyers, who on NFL's got an ADP of 124, and on CBS is 78. Which you think, oh, that's not a big deal. That's almost 50 picks. That's 4 rounds. Like that's a massive difference. And like you're saying, are you taking him at 78 on CBS? If he's sitting there at 120 in the NFL, though, I mean, that 50 picks, that's a huge difference, Tyler.
Yeah, well, it goes from basically a flex play to a bench guy where I'm much more comfortable with Jacoby as a high floor bench option than somebody that I want to play in my flex every single week. But yeah, I mean, that's just one of many examples. There's huge discrepancies, particularly when we get into the rookies and the handcuffs. I see there's a lot of different ADP marks for every single player that I just described there, going site to site. So make sure you enter your drafts with a plan, practice that plan, and go dominate these drafts, guys. I mean, the draft is the most fun part of the fantasy football experience to me. To go in without any kind of research or unprepared just feels like you're not doing yourself a service. And we at Fantasy Guru are that service to help you take advantage of all the tools, the articles that we got here, and you should be well set up for a very, very profitable fantasy football season.
You click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. You can always send a note to support@fantasyguru.com. Send an email. Hey, I want to do this. I want to do that. Support@fantasyguru.com if you got any questions. Let's dive into some of the news and notes here. Recently, we saw James Cook finally get that contract extension for the Bills. So let's talk more about the Bills' backfield now because he's in the house and everything like that. He had the 16 touchdowns. Everyone's expecting regression there. He actually had less targets last year. He had less carries last year than the year before, so his workload went down even though his fantasy numbers went up. They've got Ray Davis there, who's a very capable backup. Just recently, his quarterback, Josh Allen, said that Ty Johnson's the best third down back in football. So you got to figure he's going to be on the field a little bit. So walk us through this backfield. James Cook, interest level, higher, low, medium? What do you think?
I think you nailed it. He is the poster child for regression. I think part of being a best ball drafter is that there are pros and cons of drafting throughout the entire summer and the offseason where we get certain pockets of ADP value. Those drafting in early August were getting a decent value on James Cook where he was going late round 3, kind of basically at that round 3-4 turn. I've seen just over the last week or so, he's climbed back up into that early round 3 territory. So that discount is no longer here. I personally have a tough time investing in James Cook. He's so touchdown dependent. Last year, just looking at the volume and the touches, he was RB 27 in touches per game, 15.3. That's not great. He's not really a huge asset in the pass game either for this offense. I'd rather be taking swings where he goes up the board in the round 3-4 area at either the elite quarterbacks or the wide receivers. I think there's a great number of them that are available there. So he's kind of just been not a flat out avoid, but just a player that I'm not super interested at that price.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. Tyler, let's talk about the situation with the backfield in Houston. Joe Mixon's got an ankle foot thing. Kind of what's going. I don't know really what's going on. Is he going to be ready for week 1? Probably, maybe not. We don't know. Nick Chubb is there now. We're hearing reports that he doesn't have the burst he used to. Duh. I don't think that's a surprise. You've got Damian Pierce, who's there. They drafted Woody Marks. Joe Mixon's really started to fall in ADP. Are you buying as the price falls? Are you avoiding this backfield? How do you see it playing out?
I'm avoiding this backfield. I feel like we've entered Cleveland territory with this unit where is it a straight avoid, right? Because I think it is. We got this new offensive line. We got a new blocking scheme. We got a bunch of new backs. We've got backs coming off injury. We got some question marks. And I don't even know if Damian Pierce is going to make the final 53. I think the most realistic outcome is that we simply see CJ Stroud drop back a bit more. They've got some great investments there. The pass catcher, particularly at wide receiver for him, given the Iowa State guys they added, Christian Kirk they added. And this offensive line, I'm just not really sold on. They brought in a lot of journeymen and some older guys that have, on paper, fit the bill of being bigger, power blocking guys. But we'll see how it all gels together. Usually offensive line takes some time. And I'm not really bullish on anybody in this rushing attack right now. I'm avoiding and just watching this free fall of Joe Mixon, who I think he's right now around 120 or so in ADP, which not that long ago, he was a round 6 selection.
Yeah, Jeff Mans was talking about him on the show earlier this week. It's like, whoa, that guy's down in the toilet. Situation with the Chargers. Murray and Hampton's going to be the guy week 1. We still don't know what's going on with Najee Harris. The reports continue to improve, but I mean, he's jogging around. Like I still for the life of me don't understand why they just haven't said what's going on. Clearly, this is way more serious than we were told. I mean, that's I don't know. Like I said, if he's going to start the season on the PUP list, if he's going to be there, it doesn't matter. Hampton's the guy that most of us thought would be that he would take over the backfield eventually. Anyway, he's going to take it over at the start, right? That's the way it's going to go. It certainly looks like his ADP is flying up draft boards as we speak as a result. Greg Roman says we're going to share this backfield. And I think some people are like, whoa, let's hit the brakes. And it's like, okay, everybody. How many running backs touch the ball 350 times a year? It's a couple of them. Like the game is different now than it was when you were a kid. What's your thoughts on Hampton? And does the news from Greg Roman make you at all nervous that they're going to, oh my gosh, use other running backs besides Hampton?
It's a helium balloon at this point with Omarion Hampton's ADP. I've got him right now as a guy that I think you can reasonably target at the 3-4 turn, but heck, 2 weeks from now, it's going to be 3 solid. Yeah. Round 3 solid, if not 2-3 turn. Yeah. Everyone is wanting to get a piece of this. The ski goggles, hoodie combo with a baseball cap. Good luck, Najee. You're not hiding anything. I don't know what's going on there.
It's so weird.
The fact that the NFL doesn't have to report these preseason injuries, the Chargers are just taking full advantage of that rule. But by omission, everyone's just curious. So we're getting a lot of photographs and video of him off to the side practicing. But he's still not with the team. He's still not doing drills. And I have not been drafting Najee for basically all summer, but particularly not after July 4th.
Right.
Hampton, I think you can still continue to buy at this helium price. Like I said, it's still going up, but I still think it's worth the price of admission. Last year's Chargers, they started the year very run heavy. Unfortunately, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, they just really weren't the workhorses that they were really hoping for in Los Angeles. So they were very, very inefficient. And as such, they kind of just swapped away from the run out of necessity. Towards the back half of the year, they ended up throwing a bit more. But I envision them getting back to that. I mean, keep in mind, it's a Greg Roman, it's a Jim Harbaugh offense where these guys want to run the ball. And I think Hampton's going to be that focal point. Sure, other backs will come in. Like no back does the 90 to 95% touch snap share thing anymore. But it's not enough to get off Hampton or be worried about Hampton's outlook at all for fantasy. High hopes for Hampton this year. I think he's a great click.
Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com joins us every Thursday at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. He's often on the live stream on Tuesday nights, 7 o'clock Eastern Time over at fantasyguru.com. He'll be on tomorrow as part of the training camp that we were talking about earlier. Get signed up, folks. Hit that subscribe tab in the top right corner. He's on at 11 Eastern Standard Time. I'm on at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time tomorrow as we go through about 12 hours of everyone giving presentations tomorrow. I got a really good question this morning on Twitter X. And someone said to me, hey, look, I'm looking at this Ray, my first round pick. I want Justin Jefferson. I want CeeDee Lamb. Like, how the hell do I really decide the difference? Are they the same guy? Like, what do you look at? And one of the, in my short, brief comment, one of the things I pointed out was, well, look, it's A, B, C, D. And one of the pieces was health. And in the case of Justin Jefferson, he's got a hamstring issue that I don't think anyone thinks he's going to miss week 1. But it's there. People are starting to ask some questions. Should we be lowering him at all? What do you think specifically with Justin Jefferson? And then just as a brief aside, like Lamb versus Jefferson, how do you really decide who you'd rather have? Because there's so many, they're both absolute superstars. Like, what's the defining trait for you between those two?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think a lot of people, when they leave round 1 of their fantasy drafts, they want a rock solid player, a player they can count on every single week. Entering with a season with a guy that's injured and banged up does add some murkiness to that outlook. There's some questions for sure. You can also add the question marks at the quarterback change. We can also add some questions in terms of just the overall Vikings offense. Are they going to skew more run heavy? We've seen a lot of Jordan Mason positive buzz coming out. This zone blocking scheme just fits him to a T. I think we could see Minnesota go from that perennial top 6 pass rate offense that we've seen over the past few years with multiple different quarterbacks under center to one that's maybe a bit more balanced. This is a defense that's on the rise. I really like what Brian Flores has done in terms of adding some quality players, particularly on that front 7. Secondary still has some work to do, but Rome wasn't built in a day. They still got to invest in the cornerback position specifically, but I think this is a team that might want to try to get back to the run and let that play action really thrive for JJ McCarthy there. Justin Jefferson, one good thing about him though is there will be the first 3 games without Jordan Addison due to the suspension. One positive note in his ledger, but I'm kind of leaning towards CeeDee Lamb, where I expect the Schottenheimer offense to be much more pass heavy. A healthy Dak Prescott is not afraid to throw the ball down the field. The presence of George Pickens, a far bigger upgrade in my eyes relative to what they did the last few years with Brandon Cooks. And I think it was 2020. I'm mixing up the years, but it wasn't that long ago where Michael Gallup was a top 24 wideout. And I think there's a non-zero outcome where we see a top 24 receiver campaign from Pickens and one from CeeDee Lamb, with Lamb being a top 5 option. I really like CeeDee Lamb. I think he's a guy that he's a high floor, high ceiling fantasy asset. He's got breakaway ability. He can play inside, outside. And like I said, I think this Cowboys team is going to pass a lot. I have zero faith in this defense. I don't know what the heck they're doing with Micah Parsons. I know Trevon Diggs cannot stay healthy. They let their other starting cornerback from last year walk. The secondaries in shambles. The pass rush also let DeMarcus walk. What's his last name? The other pass rusher across from Robinson walk as well. So there's a lot of questions mark for Dallas, including me recalling names. I think CeeDee Lamb's in a great spot to be a top 5 asset, and I have him in my top 5. I have Justin Jefferson right outside there, though. I think he's more of like the number 6 play, where you can argue for some of these running backs over Justin Jefferson, where they've got maybe a better floor ceiling combination. Excuse me. But I'm going to go CeeDee Lamb over Justin Jefferson flat out. I just think there's a better path to production for him and a more safe one that we can invest in with a lot more certainty.
Tyler Beucher, fantasyguru.com. At this point of the year, Tyler, we get a lot of these reports that mean something. A lot of these reports don't mean anything. One of the reports that I wanted to ask you about is the Athletics got a report about Caleb Williams, and oh my gosh, his accuracy is not like last year in the preseason. Now, standing there in shorts, throwing balls to guys, it's not even close to the same thing as a Sunday, but do you take anything away from that? Because there's obviously a lot of excitement and buzz around the Bears offense in total because of Ben Johnson and all the changes they made like that. When you hear a report saying that the quarterback's targeting's been off a little bit, does that mean anything to you?
Not particularly. I mean, we got to keep in mind this is a new offensive scheme, new pass catchers he's got to work with. The timing rapport may not be there, but that's what you do in these times. You work these kinks out in the training camp and preseason. I don't care about the stats that are sent out via these beat reporters about player X completing 50% of his passes and throwing 3 interceptions. Good. Take those daring throws in training camp when it doesn't matter. See what you can rip off against the secondary versus not. I'm not really worried about these things. I think it's just people. We're in the information age, and I feel like it's a double-edged sword where sometimes the information is just not important.
We're in the information age, except with Najee Harris. We're still waiting on what the hell the information is there. Tyler Beucher, fantasyguru.com. Let's do a couple of either ors here before we let you run here. We're just talking about Caleb Williams. Jeff Bands and I yesterday on the Elite Sports Show, 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The player spotlight was Bo Nix. So both these guys, Williams and Nix, young guys, both guys upward, rising, both guys in offenses we're excited about. ADP is pretty close. Which guy stands out to you above the other, Caleb Williams or Bo Nix?
I will say this ADP adventure I just went down these last 24 hours, home leagues, they are not close at all. There's a 50 pick disparity between the two. So that's enough for me to just go with the value play, and Caleb Williams is going 50 picks after Bo Nix. Bo Nix going round 6 in some of these home leagues. That is bonkers to me. I think Bo Nix is a talented player, but I'm not spending a top 70 selection on Bo Nix in a single quarterback format this year. So give me Caleb Williams. Again, that's a great offense. We saw the progression over the course of the year. It was kind of night and day from one half or second half, where we went from Shane Waldron to Thomas Brown calling plays over the second half. Now we get that third play caller now of Ben Johnson entering the fold. We have the offensive weapons they just added here with Loveland and Burden, the new offensive line guys they've added over free agency. If Ben Johnson can get Caleb to play faster, introduce some play action, some pre-snap motion, help eliminate some of the quick sacks that he took, 68 sacks last year, I think we'll see some of these guys really shine. DJ Moore being the guy that I really want to focus on here for fantasy purposes. But he'll be the guy I'll be targeting, Caleb Williams over Bo Nix, purely for a price play.
Tyler, what about the backfield? We just talked about the Vikings. You mentioned Jordan Mason. There's all the hype with Jordan Mason. Aaron Jones is still there. Aaron Jones pretty good last year. You mentioned Addison being out of the mix here to start the season. Aaron Jones maybe gets a few more catches, a few more targets early to start the year. Everyone's in on Mason. What about Aaron Jones versus Tony Pollard? These are two veteran guys. I think 2 clicks that a lot of people make, and they're like, all right, fine. Like, they're not jazzed or excited to get either one. Jones has got Mason sitting there. Pollard's got Tajay Spears, who's already beat up, who's dealt with a lot of injuries. And somehow, I think last year we were going through the numbers, like Pollard gets he had 20-plus touches a game last year when Spears was out. Pollard or Jones, is it close? You're nodding your head a lot when I'm saying Tony Pollard's name.
Yeah, I think it's not close in my eyes, because I think Jordan Mason is a legitimate competition for Aaron Jones in some of these touches and these splits. And on a down-to-down basis, I think it could be very frustrating to own Aaron Jones, who the good thing about him is we know pass catching targets are worth roughly 2.5x the value of a carry. So getting a guy like Aaron Jones in a full PPR format, very valuable. But I think in terms of start-sit formats, I'd rather have Tony Pollard with that 20-plus opportunity per game thing that you mentioned. The offensive line is filled with stalwarts, a lot of round 1 selections, some high-paid players as well along that offensive line. And then we throw in Cam Ward, who last year's offense was just really kind of stuck in neutral between Mason Rudolph and Will Levis. I'm really hoping Cam Ward's able to at least make them functional, if not outside the bottom 5. If we can just get bottom 12,
average-ish, yeah.
Average would be fantastic. Right. But I'm afraid to say that. But I'll say outside of the bottom 10. We're looking at some good stuff here for Pollard, who, again, a lot of volume, great pass catching back, great offensive line, great scheme. I like a lot of things for Pollard. It's really shaping up that way. And throw in the fact that Spears can never stay healthy, which is an evergreen statement. We're already seeing it unfold right now. I think Pollard's the guy that I would prefer in a start-sit format, where I'm much more confident in him getting a larger chunk of the touches and opportunities.
Tyler Beucher of fantasyguru.com joining us every Thursday. I think this next one would be pretty simple and easy to answer if Chris Olave was healthy. Now, he's supposedly healthy, but he's had concussion. I don't know, is it 5 or 6 official concussions? He's had a lot of concussions, right? Chris Olave or Jacoby Meyers? Jacoby Meyers, to me, way higher floor. I don't know if he's got the ceiling play, right? But he's got the higher floor. Olave or Meyers, is the answer dependent upon your league? Is the answer dependent upon your roster composition? Or is it just an obvious answer, A or B?
Yeah, I think roster composition is the way to go. I'll say this. We all have risk tolerances. It can range from shooting the gap when you're merging in traffic versus grabbing a yogurt out of the fridge that may be a day or 2 old. Or a week, yeah. Some people are risky with a Christian McCaffrey selection in round 1. Others just want nothing to do with it. When we're down here at these prices, I feel like the opportunity cost is far less than the CMC discussion. But my limit personally when it comes to these risks is concussions. I am terrified of these. They're unpredictable, and they often stack in terms of the more you get, the longer you're out, the more severe they get, the longer recovery time. Olave had 2 concussions last year, bringing his total to 5 since his days back in 2020 at Ohio State. And that's just what's been reported. Nothing before 2020 or any of that information is privy to us. There could be more. add in the quarterback competition reports that Tyler Shuck, the round 2 selection out of this year's draft, is not looking sharp compared to guys like Hainer and Rattler. And I'm just throwing my hands up with Olave. Like, I'm out, man. He's just not a player I'm interested in targeting. I think there's a scary risk with Olave, despite the upside. There's he can definitely rip off a 50+ yard gain, probably more frequently and often than Jacoby Meyers. But Meyers is no slouch. I mean, he's been a top 30 fantasy asset 5 straight years. Coming off a 1,000-yard campaign. I like the Geno Smith addition in terms of adding some stability at quarterback relative to what he saw last year. And I don't think there's really much competition for targets beyond Brock Bowers. So he should probably stick to close to his 8.3 targets per game last year. And I think it really just comes down to a risk tolerance game where generally I'm willing to risk it for the upside. I just fear concussions a lot. And maybe that's just me being a bit too conservative, but Olave is on my short list of fades for this year.
I agree with you, by the way. So we're both right or we're both wrong. Let's say we're both right. A year and a half ago, Tyler, if I were to ask you this question, 90% of people would have leaned one direction or the other. Dalton Kincaid, Bills, strong rookie season. Tucker Kraft, is Kraft even the starter with the Packers at tight end? We don't know. Now the question, it's different. Kincaid or Tucker Kraft, both guys have pros. Both guys have obvious cons. Neither one, I don't think anyone really is expecting to catch 80 passes and 9 touchdowns this year. Like, we're not necessarily looking to break out guys unless maybe you have a different take. So these are kind of, all right, this is my tight end 1 kind of guys. Kincaid or Kraft, is there an easy, obvious answer between these two?
I almost wonder if it's 90% the other direction this year, where most people are going with Kraft over Kincaid.
Yeah. And I'm not wrong when I said that. Like, everyone thought it was Kincaid, right? A year and a half ago. He
was a round 4 pick, round 5 pick. He was in that top 6 of people. Okay, if we didn't miss out on the Travis Kelce's, the Mark Andrews, Kincaid was the target there, or the Sam Laporta's. I mean, Kincaid missed time last year due to a concussion, a collarbone, and a knee injury, which was a PCL sprain, if I'm not mistaken. We saw him re-aggravate that same knee this offseason. I believe he's already had calf issues. I believe he's been seen in a walking boot. I'm kind of out on this, man. Like, he was tight end 21 last year in points per game, posted career lows in receptions and receiving yards in that year too. And what really makes me hesitant about him is he was tight end 25 in route participation mark, 57.7%. So a lot of time spent blocking. This is a team that wants to run the ball when they can. And when I compare that to Green Bay, a team that was super run heavy last year, that's with all the injuries that Jordan Love sustained during the year. Remember, week 1, he got banged up in that Philly game in Brazil. Got injured again in the midpoint of the season as well. So multiple injuries occurred for Jordan Love, which led to the Packers being one of the most run-heavy units. That's not historically who they've been under this offense. So I think we're going to see the Packers revert out of this run-heavy stance and maybe go back to more of a passing situation, or even closer to 50-50, where even in a run-heavy situation, Kraft scored 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. That's pretty awesome for a guy that nobody drafted and was tight end 12 in fantasy points per game. I think he's a guy that will always be there for you if you're punting the position, a guy that you don't really need to spend any kind of capital for. And we know Green Bay's wide receivers cannot catch the ball. They were number 1, I believe, in most drop passes last year. Now we've got Dontavian Wicks on the outside looking in for snaps. We've got Christian Watson injured. We've got a rookie out there, and Matthew Golden, who at least he can catch the ball. He's at least getting positive buzz. But LaFleur, the head coach, he's been quoted as saying, if there's an area we got to do a better job on, I would say featuring the tight end. That's my mic drop there. I'm going with Kraft.
Tyler Beucher of fantasyguru.com. Dropping mics, dropping knowledge here on the show. He'll also be dropping knowledge tomorrow as part of our training camp. Again, everyone go over to fantasyguru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner, send a note to support at fantasyguru.com if you got any questions. All day long, we'll be giving presentations, PowerPoint presentations, taking questions. Tyler will be on at 11 o'clock Eastern, so about 11 to 12 Eastern Standard Time, talking best ball. As you can see there on the screen, I'll be on 3 to 4, talking how to build a winner. I'm kind of a catch-all guy, just talking a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But the entire staff will be out there giving their hour-long presentations, taking those questions, as I noted. You also get a ticket to the 4th Annual Fantasy Football Championship for the Elite Mafia. So if you want to take on Tyler in a league, you want to take me on in a league, you can get signed up for the training camp tomorrow. You got your training camp prep all done. You said you were going to mix and match and bob and weave. So it sounds like you got it all locked in for tomorrow, Tyler.
I got the outline done, but yeah, I got to send it over to our guy, Rusty. Last year, I was able to give away some free tickets to this drafters competition, hoping we can do that again this year. No promises, but stay tuned and check in to see if we can do that this year for you guys. Other than that, it's been awesome to catch up with you again, Ray. It's been I feel like 2 weeks since we last talked. We're preseason underway. I've got a preseason write-up coming for Saturday. I believe it might be a 2-slate game where there's 5 in the 1 o'clock window in Eastern, 5 in the 7 o'clock Eastern. So check out that. It should be available for you guys over on Saturday as far as some DFS content for those who have the itch already.
Tony C left a comment there. Just got my Elite Fantasy Football book today. So awesome. Love being part of this group. Yes, by the way, for those of you that don't know, we do have a magazine. It's out on the newsstands right now, too. So that's available. I don't know if I've mentioned that on this show here, but that is available, too. Final thing, speaking of books, you have your auction draft book. I know there's 3 of them. They're all different scoring systems. 1, how often do you update that? And 2, what is your target in terms of the setup?
My auction book is a tight end premium format. So that's 1.5 PPR for the tight ends, 1.0 PPR for the running backs and receivers. I'll be updating that every single week, along with every time I update my best ball rankings, I'll also be updating that auction book. So it'll be at least weekly that I'll be updating that. We published those a week back. I just published my last wave of updates this past Tuesday. So be on the lookout for more updates for that. We're in the bullets are flying, man. We're getting a lot of injury reports coming out. We're getting some newsworthy things to adjust players, some of it not being newsworthy in terms of adjustment worthy. And deciphering that is half the battle. So go check out our auction books. They are updated frequently.
Tyler Beucher, fantasyguru.com, again, joins us every Thursday here at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. He's in Discord. He'll be on the training camp tomorrow. He's writing articles. He's doing rankings. He's all over the place. Tyler, as always, it was good talking, good catching up. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll look forward to talking to you again next week on Thursday at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Ray.
You got it. He's Tyler Beucher. I'm Ray Flowers. I'll be back here tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for Fantasy Sports Daily. If you're not with me today because you're with us over at training camp, I'll totally allow it and accept it. Remember, go to FG, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner, send a note to support at fantasyguru.com if you have any questions. For Tyler, I'm Ray. It's fantasy football season, but we're still talking fantasy baseball right here on Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.